Hello students, today our topic of discussion is atomic structure. So as you all know that the smallest particle of any matter or substance is called atom. The concept of atom was first given by an Indian philosopher called Carnot. He proposed that the smallest unit of matter is called atom. After many years, scientist John Dalton proposed his famous atomic model or atomic theory, which is called Dalton's atomic theory. He proposed that atom is the smallest indivisible particle. That means you cannot divide atom into subatomic particles. Number two, same matter, they have identical atoms. That means if you collect iron from many regions of the world, all the iron atom will have the same characteristics. Number three, different matter has different atoms. That means if you collect iron and wood, they will have different atoms. The mass and the characteristics of their atoms are different. Number four, atoms are joined by the ratio of smallest whole number to produce compounds. Later on, after doing some experiment on electricity, Faraday, famous scientist Faraday, he proposed that there must be some relationship between matter and electricity. This relationship made by Faraday gives rise to the production of three subatomic particles in an atom. They are electrons, protons and neutrons. So our first subatomic particle of discussion is electron, as it is first discovered in a cathode ray tube. This is a cathode ray tube. This is a simple glass tube in which we have excavated the gas inside the tube so that the pressure inside the tube will become very low. Two electrodes, cathodes and anodes, are joined with the two ends of the battery, and under some high potential difference, some rays, some green colored rays will flow from cathode towards anode. As they are sourced from cathode, they are called cathode rays. Later on, it is discovered these cathode rays are nothing but the flow of electrons, which have the charge of minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb and mass of 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kg. These cathode rays have certain important characteristics, like they always move in a straight line. Number two, they produce a green colored light inside the glass tube. Number three, they produce certain amount of heat. Number four, very important, they are deflected by electric and magnetic field. That means if you give some electric field over and under the tube, then these cathode rays will move towards the positive charge, because these cathode particles or cathode rays consist of negatively charged electrons. And last one is, this cathode rays has some kinetic energy. That means these cathode rays or subatomic particles have some particle nature. So first of all, electron, negatively charged particle electron was discovered. But we know that atom is neutral in charge. So if in an atom some negatively charged electrons are present, there must be some positive charged subatomic particle to neutralize that negatively charged electrons. So after cathode rays, anode rays or flow of protons was discovered whose charge is similar to that electron, but it is positive in nature, and mass of the proton is given by 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. And these anode rays are very much similar characteristics with the cathode rays, except that anode rays are positively charged particles. Now, after the discovery of electrons and protons, it is noted that the total mass of an atom, it is much more than the total mass of electrons and protons. So there must be another subatomic particle inside that atom so that the mass should be balanced. But as the charge is already balanced, this third particle is called neutron because it has no charge, because it is neutral in nature. So these three subatomic particles of an atom was discovered: proton, neutron and electron. Now, how these three subatomic particles or charges are arranged inside an atom? The first theory of model of atom was proposed by scientist Thomson, which is called palm pudding model. This is a very primitive model that the electrons are embedded inside a positively charged pudding. Next, number 2 model of atom was given by famous scientist Rutherford, which is called Rutherford atomic model. This Rutherford atomic model is based on an experiment called Rutherford gold foil experiment. After this experiment, Rutherford draws certain conclusions from his experiment. While doing the experiment, he has noticed that among maximum amount of alpha particles throwing towards a gold foil, if 1 lakh particles or rays are thrown towards a gold foil, among 1 lakh rays, only one ray reflects back and maximum rays are passes through the gold foil. So from this experiment, he draws certain conclusions and proposed his famous atomic model. Number 1 conclusion from Rutherford gold foil experiment will have that this center of an atom is very, very heavy in nature, and the center is called the nucleus of the atom. Number 2, with respect to the nucleus, the rest part of the atom is empty. That means the volume of the nucleus is very small as compared to the atom. And number 4, electrons revolve in some fixed orbit with some high speed. Electrons revolve in some fixed orbit with very high speed. But these conclusions or this model will have some drawbacks. Number 1 drawback, that if electrons are continuously revolving around positively charged nucleus, then those electrons will lose certain amount of energy that results the instability of the electrons. And number 2, the moving or the rotation of electron will form some continuous spectra, but in actual practice we will not having some continuous spectrum on the electrons. This gives to the second or third last modern atomic model, which is called, given by scientist Niels Bohr, and according to his name it is called Bohr atomic model. Niels Bohr, who is a student of Rutherford, he said that all right with the Rutherford atomic model, but except one case, that there should be no loss of energy when the electron revolves or rotates the nucleus in his ground state. That means each electron has some ground state orbit which is called its home. So while moving across a home or ground state, the electrons does not lose any amount of energy. That means the instability of Rutherford atomic model is cancelled. And Bohr also said that only electrons only rotate on those orbits whose angular momentum NVR is a multiple of h by 2 pi. That is, NVR should be equal to NH by 2 pi. And last one, Bohr also mentioned that orbit, the ground state orbit or each orbit has some fixed quantity of energy. When electron jumps from one orbit to another orbit, he will lose certain amount of energy given by h, some constant, Planck constant, into nu, wavelength of the light. So based on this, we will have that atom, it has some similarity with the solar system and it has some dissimilarities with the solar system. What are the similarity of the atomic structure with solar system? In solar system we have sun at the center. In atomic structure we have nucleus at the center. The maximum mass of the solar system, the sun is very heavier than other planets. Here also nucleus is very heavier than electrons. Now planets revolve around sun, here electrons revolve like nucleus. Planets also rotate in its axis, here electrons also rotate on its axis. But certain dissimilarities are there with the solar system and atomic model. Number one, in our solar system, in one fixed orbit, only one planet is there. But here, it may has 2, 3, 4 or maximum number of, more than one number of electrons in one orbit. Number two, dissimilarity. In our solar system, we have satellites, natural satellites like Earth. It has a natural satellite called Moon. But here, no such satellite is present. And number three, the planets are revolving with the help of the gravitational force. And here, the electrons are revolving with the help of electrostatic force between the positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electrons. So nucleus, it has two particles, proton and neutron, embedded in very small region, and electron are rotating at some fixed orbits. And while rotating on some fixed orbit, electron does not lose any amount of energy. It will only lose or gain energy while it moves from one orbit to another orbit.